there, it's Julie Broad with Revenue.com, and today I'm going to tell you the 3 books that every new real estate investor, well, every real estate investor in general, should read. So it's a question I get all the time from our Revenue with Real Estate newsletter readers because many people know that I'm an avid reader. Actually, I'm an avid information seeker. So a lot of people write me and say, what books do you recommend? So today I'm going to tell you about the books that I've just read and whether I recommend them or not. And then I'm going to tell you the 3 books that every real estate investor should read, in my opinion. Before I give you my top 3, I thought I'd tell you about the books that I've read in the last 5 or 6 weeks, because that'll give you a sense of who I am and what I read. Because, of course, the books I think will make great books for a beginner real estate investor may not interest you at all. So if you get a sense of what I read, then you can judge whether my recommendations are good for you. So let me just start with, I'll go in order of the last 4 books I read. Let's see. The most recent book I just finished was Insider Secrets to Financing Your Real Estate Investments by Frank Gallinelli. And I'm actually going to be interviewing him in a teleseminar in a week or so. And definitely going to be a great call, because it's going to be like a real estate investing MBA or university course all in 1 hour. And I'm really looking forward to it in particular because this book was so easy to read, given that it was talking about financial concepts, cap rate, forecasting, how you analyze real estate deals, commercial ones and residential ones. And it was simple. It was a good read. And he said his students at Columbia, he gets them to read that book. And let me tell you, besides the fact that that book is probably 10 or 15% of the price of my MBA real estate finance course book that I had to read, I think this one was $150 or something, and that was 6 years ago now. Maybe even 7 years ago that I took this course, and let me tell you, this was painful. I'm sorry to the authors, but it was excruciating. I would have much rather read one of Frank's books, and Frank has 3. The other 2 books, I can't remember the titles specifically right now, but if you search Frank Gallinelli on Amazon, you'll find his 3 books. Good read if you want to get a really good understanding of the concepts behind analyzing a real estate investment and getting financing. Then right before that, I read, and you're probably going to laugh, Mary Kay, You Can Have It All. And I read books like this because I like to study successful people and understand what they've done to be successful. And great read, actually. And if you're interested, you could check it out. I just found it at a used bookstore. But her main secret is that she treated everybody better than she wanted to be treated. She imagined everyone walked around with a sign on them that said, "Make me feel important." And she did that. She tried to make everybody she encountered feel important. And she built an entire business on that, and a very successful one. I doubt there's very many people in the world that don't know the Mary Kay, a pink color. Right before that, I read Law of Connection by Michael Lozier, and we actually had the pleasure of interviewing him. Actually, Dave did earlier this year, and he was a fantastic teleseminar. We loved it. We had so much fun, and everybody on the call learned a lot because he gave us very simple tools. And if you're interested, I actually would recommend you pick up his book, Law of Attraction. It's important for clarity, and you really need clarity to figure out what you're doing. When you want to go find joint venture partners as a real estate investor, how do you know exactly what your ideal joint venture partner is? How do you know what your ideal deal is? There's tools in this book that will help you get clear on that. And it's an easy read and a fabulous book for anybody. I don't care what you're doing, because you need to be clear on what you're doing if you're going to be successful. So highly recommend this book. Right before I read Law of Connection, I read Dan Ariely's book, Predictably Irrational, and I also recommend this book a lot. This book talks about what influences people and gives you a look into how you can communicate better and what you can do to influence people. Great read. Highly recommend it for marketers. And by the way, if you're in real estate, you should be a marketer. You should understand marketing. So influencing people might be something you want to learn more about. So what are the top 3 books that I recommend for any new real estate investor. That was a tough one, and actually I couldn't pick 3, so I'll tell you my top 2, and then I'll tell you the 4 that tied for 3rd place. So my number 1 book, if you've read Revenue, you shouldn't be surprised that it's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And this book is not the be-all, end-all of real estate. It doesn't really teach you what you have to do. But for me and for my husband Dave, it opened the door. It's what inspired us to buy our first property, to begin pursuing the life that we're leading now and as we go forward. So I don't think everything in this book is right. And this year I've actually learned that Rich Dad is actually more or less a fictional character based on the concepts and teachings of Keith Cunningham. So, a lot of the things that I believe to be true from Rich Dad aren't true, but you know what, it doesn't matter because this book is fantastic. And as far as I'm concerned, it's a must read for everyone, whether you want to be a real estate investor or not. It just gives you the right mindset about money and investing. My second pick, my number 2 choice, is Automatic Wealth by Michael Masterson. And I consider him to be a mentor of sorts. I've met him, but he hasn't really personally mentored me. But this book fills in a gap from Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Because Rich Dad, Poor Dad makes you feel like having a job is wrong. And it's not wrong. It's the starting place for the vast majority of us. But what Michael Masterson does in this book is he teaches you how to excel at your job. He teaches you how to make more money in your job because that facilitates your wealth creation. And I used a lot of these techniques in my job. When I first graduated from my MBA, my job was a bit stagnant. I was struggling to kind of make it work, and applying his get to work early and throw yourself at your job and be a very valuable employee. I used a lot of the techniques in here, and I accelerated really quickly in my job. So I highly recommend it. It lays a strong foundation for everybody in their wealth creation. And, of course, he also recommends real estate, so can't go wrong with that. So those 2 books I highly recommend. And then from there, I couldn't pick. I'm sorry. But I'll tell you the 4 that I do have sitting here. Confessions of a Real Estate Entrepreneur by James Randall. This is more about commercial real estate, but what he's teaching you in here is to think outside the box, to pursue creating value. That's what it is. He wants you to create value in your deals, and he tells you, you gotta hustle, you gotta persist. Real estate is not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy, and it's the person who hustles and never stops hustling and always tries to find a creative way to do the deal. That's the person that succeeds. Next is David Lindahl's Emerging Real Estate Markets, because he teaches you some fundamentals that you need to understand about location. And location is critical to real estate investing success, especially if you're a buy and hold investor like we are. So this is really, really good book. He's got a bit of attitude, I'll be honest. Sometimes I was a little turned off by the attitude in there, but that's okay because you get past that and you look at the lessons he's teaching you. This book, nothing to do with real estate whatsoever, but once again, we're talking mindset and how to influence people. And you're going to be talking to a lot of people as a real estate investor. So you've got Robert B. Cialdini, and it's called The Psychology of Influence of Persuasion. And it's a fascinating read, really fascinating. Marketers must read this, and as far as I'm concerned, if you're a real estate investor, you're a marketer. So there you go. Finally, The 4-Hour Work Week by Timothy Ferriss. This book, it's going to push your boundaries a bit, and I've applied some of the techniques from this book, and it's made a huge difference. And some of them I just ignored, but it's great for just pushing you to think a little bit differently than what you think like right now, or if you haven't read books like this, you probably are thinking like right now. Yeah, great read. So nothing to do with real estate, but it's one of those books that I think will make you a better real estate investor if you read it. There you go. So those are the books I recommend.